promotion to associate, I'm going to show that my area of excellence is research, and this is how I'm going to show it. I'm going to provide evidence of number 2 and number 10. Well, I think those who have either gone up for promotion and or tenure, you do this, but sometimes it's not actually stated. And then the reviewer has to go through and try to make decisions like what they actually try and prove they've done. This has definitely happened. So our hope is that in writing in the very first page, this is what I want and how I'm going to show it, that the candidate not only organizes him or herself in a manner that now the dossier proves that, but that the review, whether it be P&T or anybody in the department or the provost or the president or the board, they are also very clear about what they're about to look at. In the letters of recommendation section, this right here is the current language, this paragraph, suggested language. There are a couple changes here, several changes. These letters should be signed and dated in the calendar year of application, and when appropriate, placed on the letterhead of the correspondent. There should be a minimum of 3 letters of recommendation from at least 2 different organizations. This section in the 2020 guidelines refers to the letters that come from our peers, either externally from outside the institution or those that are in the institution. This is not referred to student recommendations or anything of that sort. But it is important that the letters be signed and that, for instance, let's say I go up for tenure, or, okay, we'll do that example. I went up for tenure, but I didn't apply for promotion. The next year, I had a bang-up year, and I decided I was going to apply for promotion. So I used all of the same letters in the next year, and then just resubmitted them. But now the letters are equal. We want to ensure that the recommender still believes what he or she wrote and is now again reaffirming what they said. That's the reason for signed and dated in the calendar year of application. There should be a minimum of 3 letters from at least 2 different organizations. Our hope is that your grad school mentor, your grad school advisor, all of your recommenders aren't coming from one place. So we're hoping that your professional breadth has spread wide enough that you can find letters from multiple organizations, being at least 2. These are all the suggested language revisions on one slide. These are the forum dates that we are proposing. We all realize it's the end of the year. It's coming up. It's extremely busy. So we're trying to keep it as soon as possible so that we avoid preparations for finals, final exam week, and of course grading week. So Monday 4/19 at 1 p.m., Tuesday 4/20 at 10 a.m. I will be sending out Zoom links to make sure, or Teams, whatever we're mandated to use, in order for you to join those. And then at the May Senate call meeting, we will ask for a motion to adopt the suggested language. These are the members of this year's committee, and now I invite any questions that you may have. And I really, really hope that the promotion and tenure committee, who's in the room right now, that they will also participate in any responses to this.
Dr. Cruz, I believe Dr. Walkowitz has her hand up.
Yes, thank you. Dr. Cruz, could you go back to the slide where you have the dates of when we'll move from paper to electronic? Okay, so if the administration adopts Interfolio, we will start working on the organization and implementation structure. According to the vendor, it takes approximately 3 months for that to happen, which means feasibly we could be using Interfolio as early as September 22. So has the P&T committee considered using electronic dossiers in September 22?
That is something that we have not discussed at all. Not at all. That's not been part of what we're working on in this project. I will say this though, I kind of anticipated that question. I'll tell you, and Enra sent this to you. You already know this. So we received 6 different dossiers. These are all the different ways we received them. One PDF password protected, one PDF not password protected. one Google Drive with multiple folders with multiple individual PDFs, one USB drive, one SharePoint Word doc, and one Dropbox link. You guys. That was crazy town, okay?
Right.
So
All
I
of that,
don't want to comment on what we're proposing. We're not even touching that. That's something that I think the administration and the Senate need to work together to decide if that's something that wants to be moved toward. Then I think there's a lot of conversation that needs to happen if that is the case.
right, but I don't think you're understanding. So let me try to clarify. So if faculty have access to Interfolio in January 22.
Right.
All right. So in an ideal world, the administration will, work through the legal and get a contract so that we can start working on implementation in September 21, which would mean faculty would have access in January, potentially maybe February, given how things go, of 22. Then would it be possible for faculty to use Interfolio in September 22, considering that they would have had it for over 6 months?
I guess, okay, maybe I still don't understand because the presentation is on revising the guidelines. So what?
But part of your guidelines is when we move electronically. Yeah, if you go to your second slide.
Okay, hold on a second. Let me go back.
Yeah, go to this slide.
Is this the slide, Emery?
I'm not seeing it yet, but it takes a little while sometimes for it to come up. I'm still not seeing it. Try again. Okay.
I see your slides, Dr. Cruz.
You do?
Yeah, but I'm not, so it's, oh, there it is, okay, so in your second bullet point, so you have the 2020 guidelines, right, and then as of September 1st, dossiers may be submitted using these guidelines, and then, no, maybe that's not the right one.
I think there was a different slide.
Yeah, I think there was a different slide. This is it, yeah. Yeah, so it says between now and September 22, dossier materials should be organized in no more than 2 3-ring binders. Right, so my concern is that would eliminate if a faculty member has access to Interfolio in September 22, being able to use Interfolio.
Okay, all right, well, why don't you do this for me, Anne-Marie? Take a screenshot of this.
Okay.
And then write the suggested language for that first sentence, if now there's a possibility of starting earlier.
Right, yeah. Because I would hate for us to invest in something and then tell faculty they can't use it. Thanks, Dr. Cruz. I will do that for you. Great.
Other questions?
Dr. Cruz, I'm seeing a question that is related to the length of P&T documents if and when we would convert to electronic submission become a non-issue in terms of page numbers.
I'm sorry, I'm super visual. I have to read in order to really understand what's being asked here.
So at 522, Genevieve's question, should there be language about the length of the document if submitted electronically?
Oh boy, Genevieve. So we had quite the conversation about page maximums. A couple of conversations that I had with Anne-Marie revolved around 2 things. One, are there any idiosyncrasies of the Interfolio platform that would prevent us, one, from counting pages? And let's start with that. Anne-Marie told me that you could submit a PDF, and that PDF could, let's say, have 5 pages on it. You could also submit another PDF onto Interfolio and upload it, and it would have 500 pages on it. So there would be a challenge in the reviewer counting how many pages had been submitted, unless they're going to go through and scroll 1, 2, 3, 4 with each PDF and find out. The other thing that was discussed was this idea of maximums, and how do you balance, what was the statement that was made? All candidates should value quality over quantity and seek to submit a dossier that reflects their ability to present critical evidence while discerning and distilling information. Our hope was that we can make that statement and encourage our colleagues to make good choices, because when you get a dossier that's incredibly long, I mean, you don't want to prevent anyone from including information, but then the question is, I mean, did you critically think about what needed to be involved there? So should there be language? I think that's something that would be a lot more controversial than just asking our colleagues to be, to value quality over quantity. Does that answer your question, Genevieve? Well, I hope you were there while I was telling you the answer.
I
Sorry, I have a play date going on as well. My son has a play date going on. Yes, just as someone who is not going to apply for tenure for a couple of years, it's difficult to know how much material is enough. And at least with the 3-ring binder, and I understand what you're saying, it would be difficult to do something similar, with the folio and counting pages. Just sounds like a ridiculous option. It's difficult to know how much material, and I understand the quality over quantity, but as someone who's doing it for the first time, it's hard to know when you've reached enough quantity.
All right. No, that's a great question. I highly encourage that you go to the promotion and tenure breakout session, right, Leanne? At the faculty retreat.
Yes.
There will be a panel, and boy, I hope you come, because I think something you can do is just crowdsource. This is what I recommend. Do 2 things. One, speak to people in your department because they're discipline specific and can help you with that piece. But most definitely find somebody to work with outside of your department, because so many times musicians, we know exactly what we mean. And then a scientist reads it, they're like, what is this? What does this even mean? So I think you want to, the quantity piece, I don't know how to answer that, but I think getting good input is important for you to at least start honing it in. And the other thing is, with the promotion and tenure committee talked about ways to reduce your page numbers. For instance, scientists who have many publications and long publications, you could use hyperlinks to take you to the website. Now, I know the security of Interfolio is to keep everything in one space and not have to bring people out. But if you can put a link to the website where it's being hosted, that's something that a reviewer could always go out to. And that's right there, 50 pages maybe? It could be 10, it could be 100 pages. But it gives you an opportunity to reduce your size, especially when you have a publication that is oriented like that.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And to piggyback on to what Dr. Cruz just alluded to, in addition to the 2 forums that she is going to be hosting with the P&T committee later this month, one of the concurrent afternoon sessions at the faculty retreat will be a forum related to promotion and tenure and conversations relative to development of faculty who are getting ready to go through that process. So that is a part of the retreat agenda day as well. One other question before we conclude this portion, Dr. Cruz, if you could comment on the binder P&T dossier submissions, if there's a requirement on the size of the 3-ring or 2-ring binders.
I was not part of the committee that wrote that, but according to the language, there's no size.
Dr. Funny-Tree, my hand was up.
Go ahead, Brandy. I mean, if you're asking the question.
It's just kind of a follow-up. I've been thinking about the page limit situation, and obviously in research, like you said, it can be fairly easy, right? Because you can put DOI links, which are pretty common for, all new articles that are posted. But the evidence for research doesn't seem to have a page limit. So that's not really an issue to begin with. Where I kind of am concerned, and let me just disclaimer, I firmly agree with the intent to avoid what I refer to as the throw everything at the wall and hope something sticks and that you prove something. So I understand not wanting to subject the P&T committee at any part of the process to that kind of thing. So I think quality over quantity is important. But when I look, as I'm putting my dossier together right now as an untenured faculty member, and I look at what's required, right? And I think about that, it's going to be very easy for me in teaching and in service to hit page limits, even if I'm being incredibly careful about what I'm including. Just because I teach so many different courses, that sample syllabi across the variety of courses that I teach is going to hit that limit pretty quickly, or course evaluations, et cetera. The other thing I worry about is that I have seen people say, if something is in your CV, professional development, et cetera, you're going to get in trouble if you don't have evidence to support it, whether that's certificates. I see you shaking your head, Dr. Swami, but supposedly that has happened. You know, I have firsthand information from somebody who told me that happened. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But it makes me concerned as I'm putting it together, you know, how do we find that balance between not overwhelming, right, and being thoughtful, right, and distilling information to only provide quality pieces of evidence, but also not run into a problem where somebody or some buddies decide, well, you said you did it, you don't have a certificate to prove it, you're fluffing your CV, now we have a problem. So Dr. Swami, since you were kind of, if you want to address that, since you seemed to, or Dr. Cruz, anybody who could maybe help me feel a little more confident about that.
Well, since you pointed out to me, I'll tell you, it's not everything on the CV. If you have a criteria under research, and the guideline says that you have one or two research, your evidence is provided, and the committee is satisfied, it's scholarship, the publications are there, you can have a list and you can add a page. Additional information is available upon request.
Perfect, thank you.
Question.
Perfect, thank you so much.
But that's the way to address it.
Also, right now, there aren't any, there are no page limits on evidence. The only page limits in the 2020 guidelines, and this is something I always had to be educated about, is the narrative. So the narrative allows you to put 25 pages to talk. I'm going to talk for 25 pages and tell you about what I'm about to present. That's a lot. But you can put in, 200 pages if you want. Please don't. Nobody put in 200 pages, but you could if you wanted to, because there's no maximum on evidence. There's only a maximum limit on pages that prepare the evidence, I guess, the narrative, as it's called in the document.
Okay, so with that, Dr. Cruz, I think I would like to draw this part of the conversation to an end, knowing that you will have 2 forums later this month, and then our junior faculty will have an opportunity to ask additional questions during the faculty retreat session on May 18th at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, those forums will come quick. It's next week, Monday and Tuesday. So if you'd like to ask more questions or make suggestions, please do. I encourage that. And I will send the PowerPoint to Leanne for her to disseminate. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, next on our agenda, we have Dr. Jonathan Holmes. Dr. Holmes.
Thank you. Thanks for your time, colleagues. I'll keep it short. The Research and Library Information Center Committee has finished our review of grant policies for the policy for special programs and research. I want to thank the committee for their great work. We had a very thorough review of the policy. It broke down pages by a couple of different subcommittees and then brought it all together and had some good discussion and great questions came up. And I also want to thank Dr. Cootie for doing a great job of handling our questions and working with the committee on that review. So we have completed that and are at the point where I just need to finish putting together all of the notes on the document and submitting that to Dr. Cootie so that can be posted. And then that'll be available on the website for special programs and research, where I think the current iteration of the policy is already available. And I also wanted to take just a moment and give Dr. Cootie an opportunity to help me update the University Senate on the status of the upcoming Research and Scholarly Activities Day and sort of where we're at with what that's going to look like. So, Dr. Cootie, are you still available?
Yes, I'm still here.
All right. Yeah, if you could just say a few words about that, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Holmes. Well, as those of us that have been here for a while know, we used to have Research and Scholarly Activities Day every year, but it was suspended. But we're going to start again this year. It's scheduled for April 20, next Tuesday.